Love is a subject that has drained oceans of ink, whole forests of trees turned to paper, and endless hours of pondering and yearning by people of every race, nation, tongue, or creed. It is for humanity one of our universal languages. It inspires art, music, and poetry. Love fills our popular culture as the reason to live, the reason for pain, and for some even the reason to die. This isn't a new phenomenon. As a singer, I've sung many of the great love songs of popular music. The standard songbook of nearly a century ago was littered with song titles like When I Fall in Love, Love is the Thing, Love Letters in the Sand, Every Day I Love You a Little Bit More, and I Love You for Sentimental Reasons. And these are just the old standards that occurred to me quickly. Love is meant to cure all our ills, help us forget our hurts, and fulfill our hopes. At least that's the plan, according to our popular poets. Even further back, Shakespeare wrote sonnets, John Donne meditated on love's meaning, and George Herbert contemplated love's bid to welcome us home. Whatever the century, whoever the prophet or poet might be, what love is, and how love works, and where love can be found, and who we are to love, is the central question of this message. Love, like mercy, is most starkly obvious when it is absent. When we feel unloved or sense that we are not loved fully for who we are, our instincts erect barriers to protect ourselves from the fear that we will be injured or wounded too deeply, even by those we have loved. And as a cause for suffering, we know that when love is unrequited, there is an expansive pain which occurs when our love is rejected or not validated in its purity or dedication. It is this knot of emotion and experience, love, that is the subject of the fourth Sunday of Advent. In this case, all that I have said can be writ large and applied to our relationship to God. It is because St. John wrote to us that God is love that we begin to fathom that the most powerful of human emotions reflects the inner life of God as well. As a virtue, love can draw us out of sublime and selfless service. At the same time, we are often warned that love can cause the very things it is meant to conquer. We have all sat in church for a wedding and heard the recitation of the list from 1 Corinthians 13 about how love works. You know it. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part and we prophesy in part, but when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. When I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. So now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, but the greatest of these is love. So now we begin from St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians and think about the love of God expressed to us in Jesus Christ. It is a terrible, awful, frightening thing to be really, truly, and fully known and loved anyway. This is the core of the gospel for us. God knows us fully, all our quirks and sins and idiosyncrasies, all of it. Even the things you tuck away in the back of your mind, thinking that they're in the little shoebox that you've hidden away, high up in the closet of your mind, God still knows it and still loves you. The spiritual masters through all the ages have addressed the fear that comes upon a disciple when they realize that God loves them completely. Oh, but how it can motivate the saints in their work. Every great Christian saint, from St. Augustine 1600 years ago to Mother Teresa in our own lifetime, has struggled and encouraged people with the teaching that God knows us fully and yet still loves us. The proof of this love is, in its simplest form, the core of the Christmas story lived out in our lives. There is no more vulnerable creature than a newborn baby, and yet it is in this form that the sovereign of the universe chose to meet us. The choice of God to be subject to the human experience makes a difference. Why would God do this? Why would God limit himself by the incarnation and live with all the limitations of being human? For love. Or as one film from a decade or two ago called it, crazy, stupid love. Love beyond comprehension, love beyond our capacity to understand or accept or even respond, except to love in return. It is so appallingly simple, so inspiringly beautiful that God could love us, that God would love us so much that he would pursue us even into the flesh, which he formed from the dust. And in that flesh, he loved and taught and healed and reached out to the wounded, broken, oppressed world with a word of love. And he died doing it. Are you prepared for love? This is the question. Not for the stormy love of teenage years, or the harried, busy love of young parents, or the quiet, confident love of older partners. But are you prepared for all of these loves wrapped up and perfected in the arrival of a little child among the poor, the forgotten, and the lost? For that is what love looks like, and how love works.